So the division in tongues, okay, and the Tower of Babel, really want to get into that real quick because having a conversation with someone very close to me really struck me on, the mind, where the mind is at in the interpretation that was given by the colonial masters, okay, the slave owners, children, who became the pastors. When the Africans came to the Americas, they were the pastors that was on television, being played all around on the continent. You know what I'm saying? So explaining their own interpretation, giving their own interpretation. So the Tower of Babel, is a real interesting phenomenon. If you really gather everything that it was attempting to tell us in that story. If we look at it as something that happened thousands of years ago versus if we look at it as something that happened a couple hundred years ago, is a huge difference, will make a huge difference in the way we see things. So just to get this story out, being a first generation African abroad, you have parents that took their children into another environment where there's different, willingly, with a different culture, with a different understanding, with a different language. So the language being the most important part for first generation parents to really understand that the language that is being used in the country that you, or the nation that you are in, if it's not your own nation, is the tool used to destroy Goliath. Okay, it is the tool that was used to destroy Goliath. It was that pebble, okay, that when something as small as David came into the scene, with no followers, with no army, with no without the height, without the muscles, without the fear appeal, and then just came and just threw that rock at the right spot and just busted Goliath's dome, to put him on his knees and cause Goliath, to scream out, "I can't breathe," to have Goliath say, call out for his mom, have Goliath do that. Something as small as David is the pebble, and that pebble was the word, and that word was the sword. That was the sword that came in, double-edged, okay, double-edged sword that cut and sliced the children of Israel, the children of Ra, children of the sun, with Elohim energy that is within, divided and scattered like Osiris, okay, like Humpty Dumpty scattered, okay, fell off a wall, and only the individual has to use the Christ within him, right, to rise once again, to resurrect Asar, to resurrect Lazarus. Okay, we are the giant. We are Asar. We are Humpty as a collective, but we keep seeing things individually, because when you listen to what the Yorubas is doing to the Igbos, or what the Hausas is doing to the Igbos, or Igbos doing to the Hausas, or the Zulus doing to the Ashantis, or what the Ashantis is doing to the Zulus, then you miss out that there's a bigger enemy, a bigger enemy that is influencing all of the dis-ease, all the disagreements, all of the confusion is being provoked by that entity that said, let us go down and confuse their tongue so they do not know what they're saying. So now you have a people who were one, who can speak one focused language, okay, and communicate with each other when they see each other. And of course, in their own respective villages and communities, they had their own way to communicate with their own people. But when they came together, it wasn't English that people were speaking. It wasn't French that the Africans was speaking. It wasn't Portuguese that the Africans was speaking, okay? It wasn't none of these languages. The Africans had their own unit language, and then that was the language that came and was disrupted, in the Babel, this tower that was looking to build paradise within the communities, okay, and to reach the supreme state of consciousness, the supreme state of being, the sovereign state of self on earth, on this galaxy, as one, to become God. And when they saw that the knowledge of the people that we see today, that with George Floyd story, and the effects that has happened to a lot, and the problems that has been happening that came way before George Floyd. You know what I'm saying? So we don't want to think that George Floyd was someone who was singled out. This was hundreds of millions of George Floyds, and it's just one George Floyd that came out, and just the explosions makes it seem as if there was only one George Floyd, but there's hundreds of millions. So if you know the story of North America and the amount of bodies that ended up dead there, okay, your eyes will pop. You feel me? Because when I had a conversation with the individual, and they basically told me that the number was in the thousands in her mind. So when that mind is thinking that a loss of life on the continent, America, when Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabel and Fernandez and the Spanish crown with the Pope and the Vatican, when all of the Christianity came, when all of that came to North America, what ended up was 100 million dead. Okay, 100 million dead since the day that they came. Okay, and then when you go to the Congos and you think of what Leopold did of the Belgians, if you are familiar with his horrific story, then you look at another 30 million dead. And then you go to the Ethiopians, and then you get to the 50 million number, and then you think of the brothers, the Tasmanian brothers, that are said to be extinct. When you start to put all of these things in perspective, then you realize that what is going on is this Babel, is this confusion. What we believe when we use this language called English or French or Belgium is that this language is the original. It's the beginning. It has all truths, because this is the language that we learn knowledge from. Okay, but when we realize that the knowledge that we were stripped from, was the original, and is the original, not was, because was is denoting that it's past tense, but it's still present tense, the original, because we mastered all degrees in these languages. So we had books written on, knowledge written on stone. We had information written on papyrus. And we still do. And then of course this knowledge in gnosis was written inside the being. And our genetic codes. So to access these things, is what the God of the Bible did not want the Africans to do, okay, or the indigenous people of the lands to do. So I just wanted to deliver this message, as we will continue, and we'll keep it at the 9-minute mark. So follow and subscribe to the station for more information or more videos. Much love, wholeness.